So me and my daughters was watching David last night, and this is what I got out of it. Cause I definitely we watched it, but God allowed certain things to stand out this time. What do you do when you are Saul? When Saul had a vulnerable moment, like for some people don't even understand. Like they like us and they hate us, but then see when they're a time to be vulnerable, things that they don't tell nobody. But see, when they're in your presence, because see, God is with you. So some people, they tell the truth and don't even realize what they're saying, but that's God's doing. Saul said, I didn't want this. He was talking to David. He was like, God, because I'm a paraphrase, but I can't say word for word. But he was pretty much telling David, like, I never wanted any of this. I didn't want to be king. I didn't want to be any of this. Like, so what do you do for the people that are, and this is truly my question, because I was like, God, well, what do you do for the people that are running because they don't want what you are calling them to do? This is real life stuff. Some people are running. I hear myself sometimes like, God, I didn't ask for this. Like, I didn't ask to be what you're calling me. Like, I just plan on minding my business. I didn't see myself doing what you are calling me to do. But even with that, God is showing us, let's not be like Saul, because guess what? We can go in our own way. There are people that are gifted. There are people that are anointed. But God be with them at first. If Saul reigned for 40 years and God was only with him for 2, this is a season where we have to be honest with ourselves. God, I may not want what you are calling me to be. I may not see myself, but just work on me. Work on the things that I lack. Work on the weak areas in my life, because being used by God, your life is going to be on display, the good and the bad. But I want to learn from the mistakes. That's why I love the way that God taught me and he raised me up, because he showed me everybody's mistakes. He showed me my flaws. He showed me you're not perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You may not want this, but this is what I have for you. And if you choose this life will be prosperous. You're going to have to go through some suffering. You're going to have to go through some pain. Look what Jesus went through. Look what people in the Bible went through. Look what Hosea went through. You're going to have to stand for people, and you're going to be betrayed. You're going to go through some things, but I got you. Be honest with God in the season of what he's calling you to be. Be honest in the season of what God is showing you. Yes, we don't see ourselves worthy. We don't see ourselves like, God, how can you use us when I done did this? I used to be that. Like, why would you want to use me? And then there was another scene where Saul, there was a situation where he needed to make a decision, and he literally was like, people was like, did you consult God? I'm God's appointed, and I'm going to make this choice. So many people, because they think that God is still with them, or because God chose and appointed them because of the position and the title. Yes, God may appoint, but when he took his hands off of you, you are no longer in control. And this is why certain people lose God's presence, because they still continue to do what they want to do. And God is showing us, let's not be like this. Because yes, God can be with you, but don't speak on his behalf. Don't make decisions for the people or everything around you when you really haven't consult God. Just because God is with you, God did choose you, doesn't mean that you have the right to make decisions right on the spot. And then I love it when they was in battle and David was fighting Goliath, and Saul, you can see Saul's face, whatever. He tried to give him the armor, but the armor that was for Saul isn't for David. See, some of the Sauls want to give you their armor because, do this because I know what's best for you. No, David's like, I don't want that. Like, that's not going to fit me. That's not going to suit me. And as a David, you got to, even in the presence of those that do belong to God, we have to say, listen, I respect you, but that's not for me. That's not for me. I don't have to disrespect you, nothing like that. But your armor isn't for me. What God gave you isn't for me, because, see, David knew the whole time that he was king. I know that God is with me. I don't have to continue to say it. We know, for some of us, we know God is with us. But see, it took him beating a giant. And Jonathan said, Father, God is with him. God is with him. And then when the enemy tried to attack David by himself, because the guy was like, well, a stone ain't going to take out all of us, how everybody came behind him running, while Jonathan is saying, God is with him. Everybody took off to protect David. See, when you think that we think that we alone, God is about to send people. God is about to send people to fight our battles and to fight with us, not against us. The enemy think that he has us trapped. That's why we have to pay attention to what God is showing us and be honest with everything that's inside of us, because some of us, we are not ready for what God is calling us to be. We don't want the attention. We don't want the spotlight. We don't want the titles. That's why God can use some of us, because we don't care for none of that. I don't care for the title. I could do whatever God wants me to do without the title, without the spotlight. Can you be okay if God is making you for a community, not globally? Even if God is making you globally, can you be humble enough to let your life be on display? The areas that God needs to be on display, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Can you allow God to expose your nakedness? Because your nakedness or the things that you did of the world, that is your testimony. Because now you're bringing somebody else. Don't be. Oh, how can I put this? Do not be so scared of your past coming up, because you don't want people to see you as something else. So what? Listen, we all done things, and some of us haven't done as much worse as others, because people done worse things than we have. Your testimony, your life is the becoming. Once you transfer over into who God is calling you to be, you overcoming negative thoughts you became. You've overcome dysfunction you've become. You're becoming after every trial that you get over. Yet you might be going through it, but yet you made it. You overcame. You're more than a conqueror. You're God's chosen. You're God's appointed. And you're still letting God lead you. The Bible is to teach us things that we won't make those same mistakes, but we're going to make mistakes. Can you not go your way? Because if you go your way, God is going to take his presence and his hands off of you, and I'm going to give you to your enemies. I'm going to give you a perfect example. Balaam, is it Balaam and Balak? I think that's his name. And Numbers 22, and he kept hitting his donkey, not knowing like the donkey was sparing his life because the donkey could see, but Balaam couldn't. God was with Balaam, but because Balaam decided to do witchcraft and be in all this, so that's why Balak went to him. Because see, even though he was lukewarm, he was with God, and then he was in his own, he was doing his own thing, dibbling dabbling. Some people want to know their future. Some people want to know what their future look like, or they want stuff and they want to see what's on other people's lives. So let me dibble and dabble, yet still God is still with me. We cannot do that. We cannot do that. And then God gave him instructions. See, God, and it's crazy because see, God started talking to Saul, but with even though that Balaam was still kind of lukewarm, God was still there. It's showing us in text that God was still there because God was instructing him. All right, cool. I gave you to your enemy, but I'm still going to use you right where you at. So whatever choice you decide to make, you can be used by God willingly, and out of your will, you surrendering everything. And surrender looks different for every season of our lives, because some seasons it's going to be harder than it is the last season. But surrender is what we need to give God. We need to give God us, because I would rather God use me fully and there's no limitations. I'm not putting God in a box, because unlike Saul, I refuse to go in that. I know we can be that. But God, keep your hands on us so we are not like that. Then let us not go and do our own thing to where you're using us where we're limited at. Because we got in the way. I don't want to get in the way. So with these stories, we have to understand that God, how do you want God to be with you? Halfway, somewhat, handing you to your enemies and still using you. So while you're going through suffering, I'd rather go through suffering, walking with God, than being in my enemy and God using me as well. And then the choice that Balak, I could be saying his name wrong. So please, yeah, I could be saying his name wrong, but I think that's what it was. I'm not sure. But anyways, like, he didn't get paid. He didn't get what he want at the end of it. And why do that and be in the hands of your enemy and be halfway used by God, and you still not becoming, or you're still missing out, and you don't have the prosperous life that you can have when you can walk with God. So let us give ourselves And let's have compassion for those, because there are people that truly don't want to be what God is calling them to be. And some of them are forced because, especially those that are in church, you know, they family pastors and stuff like that. Well, you got to be this. So those that are forced into ministry, those that are forced into doing God's will, um, anything forced, people are going to hate. And we have to have a compassion for those that do turn into Saul's spirit, and those that are hand over to the enemy, because walking with God and doing what he wants is heavy. That's a burden. And anyone that likes it and like doing what they want to do, those are agents of the enemy in my eyes, because no one really truly wants the call, but it takes courage. That's why God says over and over, do not be afraid, be strong and courageous. So let's be strong and courageous, but also let's have a different perspective of those who are running and stay like Jonah and do things in their own